It's Saturday, the 24th of September 2016. I'm Robin Yellow, and this is Techtasm episode 30, Fording Out of Love with Steering Wheels. And with me, again, because nobody else has travelled the world as much as he has during the last 3 weeks, is Sir James Woodall.
Mr. Yellow, how are you doing?
I'm very good. You've been enjoying the culinary excitement that North America has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely extensive.
Shrimp-tastic.
Yeah, shrimp-tastic, absolutely. Yeah.
Double awesome. Well, while James chews down on his gigantic hamburger, we will be looking at Ford's steering wheel-less car. Android apps finally arrive on Chromebooks in the stable channel, and Windows 10 woes. And we'll be judging these stories and some others to tell you whether they are a Techtasm, which by our definition is a blend of tech for technology and tasm for phantasm, something existing only in a person's mind. So without further nonsense, let's get on with the show.
Okay, so we've got a BBC article here with an author.
Oh, so it's not Nameless Journo Droid.
Nameless Journo Droid has not written this article. This is Dave Lee, BBC, talking about how Ford have announced that by 2021 they are going to mass produce a fully autonomous self-driving car, but wait for it, without a steering wheel. Which is, 5 years, that's not a long time. That's quite something. They unveiled this in Palo Alto a couple of weeks back, and
when you say they unveiled it, what did they actually unveil?
They unveiled basically an idea, I guess.
The news.
Yeah. They gathered everyone together to tell them about the news. They're hinting that it's going to be some kind of ride-sharing service, so not necessarily a car that you can buy in a traditional.
Okay, that's interesting.
Traditional shop, but what's really interesting is Ford have actually made quite a few investments in this type of thing, in partnership with Chinese firm Baidu, which of course is the Google equivalent over in China. They made a joint investment of $150 million into a company that works on LiDAR technology, which of course is used for detecting objects while driving around. So this is really interesting. I think that what if you were to compare it to, say, the Tesla, the US Society of Automotive Engineers has a standard of autonomy, and this is saying it will be level 4, which means that the car can basically operate entirely, kind of by itself for particular use cases. It doesn't really say what they mean. Tesla's autopilot is level 2. But of course, with recent events, that requires a lot of human assistance. So in terms of autonomy, what Ford is promoting actually seems pretty advanced.
Well, the level 2 system on the Tesla, of course, is based on two sensing systems. One is an optical system from an Israeli company called Mobileye, which I think they're converting now to internally produce the software that drives that optical system, in combination with radar, which of course doesn't give neither of those systems give the same level of accuracy that you would get from a LiDAR system. You know what LiDAR stands for, James?
I do, because it's written in front of me. It is light detection and ranging. There you go. See,
that is correct.
I can read.
Yes, well done. Well, LiDAR, of course, shoots out lasers in all different directions and then looks for reflections and then does oversampling. And in near real time can give a very accurate 3D view of what's going on in front of you. And all the Google driving systems, of course, are based on LiDAR. So I'm not surprised to see both their investment in LiDAR and this being at the heart of a level 4 system, because I think the current driving aids, things like adaptive cruise, just use a crude radar system for tracking the car in front. Whereas as I say, the Tesla uses an optical system as well to interpret actually pretty much what you're seeing out of the front window.
Okay, so I guess really, what I want to know is, 5 years is not a long time, especially in the car automotive world. can they really get a car with no steering wheel out in 5 years?
Well, the great thing about their announcement, of course, is that's all it was. It was an announcement. My question would be on that sort of 5-year time frame, whether anybody's going to pick them up in 5 years' time, basically, on the 17th of August, 2021, and say, aha, where is it? And of course, by them saying it's potentially not going to be for general sale, just used for specialist use cases, all they've got to do is to sell it to one taxi firm that does a square mile in downtown Los Angeles, and they've delivered on their promise. So I think this is PR.
Okay, yep, I would agree. So
I'm not saying it
Techtasm
isn't driving their development, though. I'm not saying they're not going to deliver it. And certainly this will be as much, I think, for their own internal engineers to deliver something as it will be for the public. But I would call this a Techtasm, James.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, moving on.
Well, the Next Web reports this week that Google Play has now arrived on Chromebooks. Now, we've spoken about this before on Techtasm. In May, Google announced that it was going to bring this feature to Chromebooks, i.e. access to the entire Android Play Store on its laptop and desktop system. But with the arrival of Chrome OS version 53, the Acer Chromebook R11 and the Asus Chromebook Flip now have the ability to download, install, and run Android apps natively on the Chromebook. Now, of course, James, Android apps were not designed for the use on the laptop, so they're going to be windowed. Yeah. And of course, they're not designed for a mouse; they're designed for touch, and therefore you may find them a bit finicky to use. And in fact, VentureBeat noted that the game Dots was basically unplayable on the trackpad, much easier on a touchscreen. Of course, the two devices that I mentioned there, the Acer Chromebook R11 and the Asus Chromebook Flip, have both got touch screens.
Have they got multi-touch screens?
Yes, they do. So you can do pinch and zoom and all that kind of stuff. I've actually tried this out yesterday on an Acer Chromebook R11. And then I installed Pocket Casts, which is one of my favorite podcasting applications, just to see whether it would, synchronize my podcasts from its web-based service and play seamlessly some of the podcasts that I have in my list, including this show, and it worked perfectly. So I can report that this works effortlessly. It's not seamless because they are slightly different to the way the Android apps run. Of course, as I said, are windowed, so it looks a little bit out of place compared to the rest of Chrome OS, which is effectively a big web browser. But it works very well, looks consistent. You can tell it's an Android app, obviously, but it works. It really works.
Okay, well, look, it's quite exciting. It's definitely the way forward. There's well over 1 million apps out there for the App Store. So,
well, yes, and that's what they said, 1 million apps. But what's interesting is that literally out of all the apps I use on Android, that was the only one I could really think of that I need. Slack, there's a web app. Hangouts, there's a web app. Even WhatsApp has got a web app which you can use, and you think, well, actually, there's not much I need. It's got a media player built into Chrome OS, so I don't really need it for that. I suppose, Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, they're Android apps, which I actually installed to do a test, and they work perfectly. But of course, the Android versions of Excel and Word are cut down anyway. From the full version. So it's not like you're getting the full desktop version for free.
Well, how does it compare to the web versions of Excel and Word?
Much faster. So in terms of performance, once you've got the thing up and running, it's much more responsive than the web version, especially of Microsoft's online Office suite, which can be very sluggish and difficult to use. So from that point of view, that native Android experience gives you that performance and speed. If of course the app is native itself, it gives you that fast responsive performance, which is good. So it worked very well. And of course, let's not forget, obviously this is about 1 million apps and them extending the Chrome OS ecosystem to support that. But, it's a technological marvel the way they've done this. Let's not forget how very hard this was for them to do. And they've delivered on it.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's
You're not impressed, I can tell.
It's very interesting. They've been talking about it for a very long time now, if you think about it. So it is quite impressive that they've managed to do it. I'm just not sure about the usability. I imagined that limiting it to touchscreen tablets might be a bit of a problem. If you think, this kind of thing has been attempted before with applications that were not designed for a platform moving over to a different platform.
Yeah, you're talking about perhaps some of the early iOS applications for the iPad when it came out were just scaled up versions that didn't work very well. Yeah, obviously, apps that are designed for tablets or that scale, Android apps that would scale to tablets are a much easier experience and a better experience. But I didn't find using a mouse as being too jarring. Obviously, it's designed for touch. But remember, let's take Pocket Casts, for example. When Pocket Cast is running in phone mode, you have to slide in, or tap the hamburger menu to get the menu to kind of slide across the screen, so you can activate it, access settings and your groups and lists, that sort of thing. Now, because when the app opens on Chrome OS, it's effectively running in tablet mode. The menu just sits there on the left like a regular tablet style. And that's quite good. So there's not much sliding. You don't need to do much finger sliding or to kind of imitate that with a mouse and a pointer to actually get the functionality to work. So I didn't find it too bad an experience.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, do you know if there is any specific SDKs now for Android apps to take advantage of trackpads?
My understanding is that since Lollipop, possibly earlier, there's always been support for mouse pointers and clicks. And it's kind of built in, it's native with the app. So if, for example, you've got an Android tablet, you hook up a mouse and a keyboard to it, you can just use it. And that's all we're talking about here. Is that use case. And of course, the fact that Chromebook has got an inbuilt keyboard and trackpad, well, that's all the better. It just means it's built in. It's just more convenient to carry it around. So, if you look at it in those terms, it gives you all the functionality of a tablet with a keyboard and a mouse pointer into one handy package, which we call a laptop. Don't tell anyone.
Okay, well, look, it's quite exciting. I think when we meet up next, I'm going to have a bit of a play, and then I'll have
to sort you out a Chromebook. You're going to have to join the 21st century.
No, I shall resist. Yeah.
I've got a MacBook. I don't need anything else.
Yeah, okay. Well,
so Techtasm, I mean, do you think Android apps
No. This is not a Techtasm at all. It's definitely a real. Right. I just may never use it myself. Okay, well, if we can move on. This episode for our listener is a triple BBC episode. So this is BBC article number 2. And again, we've got a name. Rhiannon Williams.
Brilliant.
Well done,
Rhiannon. You've obviously been listening to our banter on the show.
Absolutely.
And you've decided to name yourself.
So, Windows 10 has been condemned by which of course is the consumer advocate group, which recommends products for people to get, based usually on easiness to use and so forth. And supposedly they're saying that they've received hundreds of complaints about from people who have upgraded from Windows 8 to Windows 10. And all to do with things like various peripherals not working, Wi-Fi, printers, speakers. Of course, there was a bit of an issue Microsoft had a few weeks ago where they broke loads of webcams for people with a certain update. So, it's actually it's not been a good few months really for Microsoft, according to which anyway from Windows 10. I mean, my experience of Windows 10 has actually been pretty positive. What about you?
Yeah, it's been very good. I mean, of course, working in the tech industry, I understand the challenges that they have, the gigantic variety of equipment that they have to support in terms of drivers. And of course, I think a lot of these updates were doing things like replacing the Microsoft approved driver with perhaps the vendor supplied driver for certain things like graphics cards. That have always been a challenge. And of course, Apple and Google get round this by having, essentially reference platforms or knowing their hardware or controlling which hardware their operating system goes onto and therefore avoid this problem. Microsoft have always had this challenge, a unique challenge, I suppose, in the market. So I'm not surprised there were some problems.
Yeah, I'm not either. But as you say, we're a lot more understanding about these kind of issues. What thing is, every time there's a version of Windows out, there's this kind of story. People hated Windows XP when it first came out because it was incompatible with Windows 98. Well, yeah, which of course was the darling at the time. And then, of course, when Windows 7 came out, people were moaning about how they loved XP so much and why did they have to change.
People don't like change, do they?
Exactly. So I think the title of this article should be "People Don't Like Change."
Well, I think that's probably what it is. They just don't like change.
Yeah, exactly. And I think things don't work. But from what I've found with my experience at Microsoft is if you write your drivers and software according to the standards, things generally work quite well. If you break the standards, things go wrong. You've used the story before. I'll use it again. 10 years ago or so, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for Windows 98 required administrator privileges. Why? Because they decided to put their save data in program files, a protected portion of the hard drive.
Magic.
So, the way of getting around
they
that
needed magic access.
was require elevated privilege. So software developers are lazy. And they just do what works, not necessarily what's best. And then when Microsoft updates things, hey, things go wrong. So
that's part of their problem, though, isn't it? That of course they have got any manufacturer can make a Windows PC, any peripheral manufacturer can make a peripheral. It's all open. The openness of their system. Paradoxically, it's a proprietary closed system, but the openness of it in that it's available to everybody is an Achilles heel. The issue I've got is where do they go? If people aren't going to use Windows 10, what options and alternatives do they have?
Well, they definitely don't. Well, they don't have Linux because that's even less compatible than Windows, according to this current story. And you can't have Mac or Chrome OS unless you get the right hardware. So you're kind of a bit stuck. But the thing is, Microsoft's openness is also, as you say, its problem because most driver vendors can put their drivers through Windows Update, but and therefore you have to pass a load of tests. You don't have to do that, because you could always ship your driver on a USB key or download it from your website, and therefore you can bypass those tests. So it's very hard for Microsoft to control this.
There's no Techtasm here. There's no conspiracy. Windows has always had this problem. It's really, I suppose, a tax on doing business. This is inevitably going to be a problem. So not a problem. It's going to be a byproduct of the way that Windows is designed and its acceptance. And clearly the market loves it. It's got massive market penetration. So no story here. Jog on.
Okay, let's move on.
Well, The Independent reported this week from Andrew Griffin that Google Allo, Edward Snowden has said that the new Google Allo should be deleted and never used. Now, James, have you been using Google Allo since it came out a few days ago?
I have been invited to it, and I think by you 20 minutes ago, and it's now been downloaded onto my phone. I'm now opening it for the first time. Look, the answer is no, okay?
Okay. Well, look, Google released its new chat app, Allo, after showing it off during the summer. Now, what's unique about Allo? I mean, Allo is just a messaging app, but what's unique about it is it comes with a built-in robot that watches everything you say, stores it for later analysis, and uses that data to improve the app itself. So if you and I, James, are having a conversation and I say pizza, the Allo droid, which is called the Google Assistant, will pop up a list of pizza restaurants near us, near you or near me. But you see, the problem is, and this is perhaps why Edward Snowden has got a problem with it, is that your chat or our chat will be stored on Google's servers indefinitely, with them being able to read it and process it and do whatever they want with it. Now, the company initially indicated when it launched this product that the messages would only be stored temporarily. This, of course, would limit the potential impact on a data breach at Google, however unlikely that is, and it would retain some level of privacy for you and me. But the fact they've now recanted on this and said we're going to keep it forever is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, it is, and look, data is Google's business, so nobody can be surprised that Google's holding on to data. Look, Allo, I don't know. Isn't it just another Me Too, though? I mean, I appreciate it's got this assistant, which is very nice, but...
Well, I suppose the two features which stand out for me is, one, the ability to scale the text and emoticons up and down. So you can make tiny, tiny little emoticons or big fat ones, and the same with text. So you can emphasize and accentuate. So it gives you a little bit more, I suppose, in your expression palette to do things. But it's a Me Too on WhatsApp, pretty much. The only differentiator is the inclusion of this Google Assistant AI. But in order for us, for example, to have a private encrypted conversation, which we could, we would have to go incognito. And if we go incognito, then we don't get any of the Google Assistant features. We just get a Me Too IM app with the ability to scale the emoticon and words up and down.
So you may as well just have WhatsApp and stick with it. I mean, but what I'm surprised at is, of course, we spoke about Google Duo a couple of weeks ago. Why haven't they just made a messaging and video app? Why two different apps?
Well, they used to have one. Well, they do have one called Hangouts, which is a combination of video, audio, and messaging. But the reason they've released two apps, I suppose, to supersede it, is because Duo just does point-to-point video, and it does it very competently, James. That one is excellent. I've been using that myself, and that is good. That one's going to stick, I think. Whereas, and they've taken the chat bit out and Me Too'd it on WhatsApp. I suppose without the voice, I don't think there's an ability to do a voice call. You can do that thing where you record a little voice clip, which the other person can then play, a bit like sort of, delayed push to talk, that sort of thing. So they've obviously decided those are the crucial features which are important going forward. And that single combined monolithic app is obviously too confusing.
Well, you say too confusing, but people are used to WhatsApp, Viber, dare I say it, iMessage, Skype. I mean, I don't think they're giving users enough credit if they're saying they're not used to those apps when clearly they've existed since the dawn of time.
Yeah, and the question is really for Google Allo, for me, is whether it's going to stick or not. What do you think?
No, it's not at all. It's another Me Too.
It's Techtasm.
Yeah, it's definitely Techtasm. Google need to be in this game because Facebook and Microsoft with Skype are clearly ahead of it. They need to do something, but maybe they should just buy Viber.
You've heard it first here on Techtasm.
Okay, well, just a bit of a cheeky end story, if I can humour you for a little bit, and our final BBC one, 3 out of 3, with, in fact, the first author, Dave Lee. It came out in the news that Apple are considering buying McLaren. McLaren being the sports car manufacturer. Of course, Apple and McLaren have both come out saying this isn't happening. But I think it's really interesting because what it does is it revives the rumors about Apple who are building maybe not self-driving, but Apple are building their own car, supposedly. So, what do you think?
I think it's a rumor, and I can understand why people latched onto it. I'm a bit disappointed by Dave Lee in the BBC that he's just basically written an article about a rumour. Well, crikey, anyone can make a rumour up. The fact that this sounds plausible is irrelevant. It's still a bloody rumour and there's no facts behind it. And in fact, didn't McLaren come out literally the day after and say, we have never spoken to Apple, we're not selling to Apple, this is all untrue?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, I think it's one of those things where maybe people are just trying to keep the Apple car story alive because Apple are famously very good at keeping secrets. And although the car is a bit of an open secret, no one's actually said anything. So maybe this is just a way for people to just
Well, I think there certainly was some movement at Apple in terms of their employees that had been brought in with knowledge of cars, and there'd been some no, I don't know whether there were firings or whether they just naturally moved on. People left. There had been a few resignations and a few people moved on. There'd been some personnel changes at Apple. And obviously the world's conspiracy theorists looked at this fact, conflated it with perhaps another car that has the same design zeitgeist as Apple, which is McLaren. You know, it's an engineering firm with white ceramic tiled floors that are kept spotlessly clean, which is very, very much how you imagine Apple do their business. And therefore, somebody in a pub said, what about Apple and McLaren? And somebody else said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then somebody overheard it. And before you know it, reputable news outlets across the world are reporting it as, well, they might be denying it, but wouldn't it be a great idea? Ridiculous.
Well, there's quite a few times this has happened. I mean, do you remember when Kim Jong-un's uncle was executed and all of a sudden it came out that he was killed by dogs, and it turned out that was just what somebody posted on Weibo. So
yeah, you can believe that for North Korean news, but you cannot believe it from companies, especially. I mean, and the story kept going even after everyone had denied it. Apple didn't deny it, but they don't deny or confirm anything. But after McLaren had said no, and then people go, well, they've said no really quickly, didn't they? Maybe they're just being secretive about it. And you think, stop it!
It's clearly a slow news week.
It is total Techtasm, everybody.
Okay. Well, it was nice to have 3 BBC articles with 2 named journalists. So, well done, BBC.
Even though one of those stories was ridiculous. That's all we got time for, James. Now you, dear listener, can find us at facebook.com/Techtasm. Subscribe on the usual podcasting sites, iTunes, Stitcher, Feedburner, whatever. And contact us at feedback@techtasm.com. Now, we record every Tuesday at 2100 BST GMT, which is why we're recording on Saturday. So watch out for next week and pick a day and guess when you're going to get our wonderful show. This is me, Sir Robin Yellow.
And me, Mr. James Woodall.
Asking the question on your behalf. Is it real or is it just a Techtasm?